Skipping the recap, we open on episode 3 with, of all people, Thaddeus, looking somewhat worse for wear, presumably due to the concoction he was given in season 1. Is he a ghoul? Well, he certainly has the pronounced eye sockets of one, so maybe. Anyway, he is running a child workhouse, operating what appears to be a functional Sunset sarsaparilla bottling plant, getting the kids to work 22-hour shifts, taking the caps off bottles in order to get rich. Some of the children are ghouls, some are human, and some are just other kinds of mutant. Where are they in the world? How did Thaddeus find all these kids between Los Angeles and wherever he is now? Who knows? What do they eat and drink? Who knows? Well, okay, we do know what they drink, as one child asks for water and is told just drink the soda. With that set up, we jump to Lucy and Slave Woman being escorted by the folks from the end of the previous episode. And we see blatant cruelty out in the open with no context. There is one slave getting whipped, a second digging a hole, and a third having his teeth pulled. It also looks like the camp is in the middle of preparing for conflict, as 2 women are escorted to a tent with a guy whose helmet looks far too big for his body. But this is no dark helmet, as he orders the execution of Slave Woman for losing her legionary. We then get a flashcard telling us that this is in fact the Legion. Lucy is led away into a new tent, where 2 other men are having a discussion. The man from before removes his helmet and turns around to reveal himself to be Macaulay Culkin. Henceforth, I shall call this character Legate Culkin. Lucy steps forward and tries to speak, but is rebuffed by Legate Culkin for daring to address the great Caesar, for which we get a jokey exchange. You see, Lucy corrects them on the pronunciation, saying Caesar is German and not Latin, and she is admonished for it. Remember, Slave Woman was executed for getting lost, but Lucy continues on, even as Slave Woman's head is stuck on a spike. You see, they are negotiating her prima noctus. Seemingly blissfully unaware of her surroundings for some reason, she corrects them again, saying it is a tradition from the Middle Ages and she's not even a virgin, and unfortunately mentioning the incestuous relationship she had with Chester as well. Quite rightly, they are having none of it, as she is bound and led away, with Legate Culkin saying he does not expect them to understand, as they are at war with the NCR, the Khans, the Brotherhood, and the Legion. You see, the original Caesar is dead, and while he wrote down who his successor would be, which appears to be in code as the shown scrap of paper seems to read, I am plus I, mysteries abound here as to why nobody read it when he died, and why his body was left on a dirt mound to decay for years. Now, Legate Culkin does say that when they try to retrieve the body, they get shot at, but that does not answer the question of why it was put there in the first place. These, alas, are questions that will not be answered in this episode. Lucy, still not realising the full extent of the trouble she is in, offers to help, and gets crucified. But this does not shut her up, as she states that this is America, not Rome, and those who think they are the good guys tend to be the bad guys. Legate Culkin scoffs, saying all that is left of America is the ruins of its failure, and leaves. Jump back to the hospital from the previous episode, and not only did someone there after the Great War take time to write "dead, dead, dead" on the wall, but Ghoul Howard is still alive. Well, how about that? Still in pain, of course, thanks to the rad scorpion venom. A dog returns in this scene, by the way. Ghoul Howard talks to Dog about a boat not being a boat if you take enough of it away, while he cuts the poisoned piece of flesh out of his leg and tosses it away. Props to Mr. Goggins in this scene, as the acting really did make me think he was in agony as he was cutting into his own body. Far more agony, mind you, than he showed in Philly while he was getting shot repeatedly in the back. Time for a pre-war scene, as Cooper walks in on Barbara trying to stuff Janie's teddy bear into their vault keepsake box. Perhaps this is subtle messaging of how In the future, she will not have Janie with her when the bombs drop. Or perhaps I am just reading too much into it. Regardless, Cooper keeps up the act of not knowing, saying that there might not be a war. Barbara picks up a family photo as Cooper excuses himself as he has an event to attend for Charlie. Cut to said event, and it is the American Veteran Entertainment Alliance annual fundraiser, with plenty of ex-servicemen both in military and civilian apparel in attendance. Cooper is asking Charlie about Senor Bungalow, to which he responds that Bungalow is building a weapons system in Vegas, and they think it is linked to Vault-tec's plan to bomb America for profit. This reinforces my previous assumption that Lee Moldava is slimy and manipulative, as she said it would be him who starts the war, sounding very certain on the matter. Charlie reveals that this information is some blueprints and phone records. Cooper asks if he knows that Moldava wants him to do to Senor Bungalow, and it turns out Charlie does not. Now, time for a very curious line indeed. Charlie says that half the people in the room have killed people, and perhaps not the right ones, finishing off with saying that Senor Bungalow is just one person. Implication: Senor Bungalow should be killed for, I don't know, being too rich, owning a successful company and providing an awful lot of consumer amenities to America. It can't be for being a sociopath and getting 3 men killed in episode 1, as apparently nobody knows that he did it. Anyway, we get a stereotype, boring politician walk up on stage, and she talks about how she is the only congresswoman to have refused corporate funding, presumably a callback to season 1, where it was said that Vault-tec owns the government. She goes on to say that she thinks America cannot afford any more corporate influence in Washington. I will reiterate a point I made in episode 1 here, and that was that the little platoon putting out a comment that the show is trying to portray Senor Bungalow as Elon Musk. And again, with this statement, it does seem to have a parallel there, but that is something outside the show, and so back to it. The veterans do not care, and one heckles her. The boring politician makes a fool out of herself, still droning on, by dropping her cue cards and having clearly not practiced before coming out. Cooper excuses himself from the scene. Into the bathroom, and we get to see that Senor Bungalow himself is just standing there in the room. Why is the richest man in America, the one who is testing mind-controlled technology on random civilians, and building a weapons system in New Vegas, just hanging around in a veterans hall bathroom? Nobody knows. But here he is. He starts off the conversation quite cordially. Alarms should be raised as soon as he knows exactly who it is who's getting an award, and that he is Cooper's friend. But perhaps there is only one award getting handed out. We simply do not have enough information. Senor Bungalow starts to prod, insinuating that Charlie is a communist, and that Cooper is also a communist. Cooper does not fall for the bait, but Senor Bungalow continues. You see, he agrees with the communist point of view, that traditional institutions have failed, but the question is how to solve that problem. He finishes off with saying that if you back a body into a corner, they are liable to try anything, but if you back billions of bodies into a corner at the same time, well, everyone trying to save the world, they just can't agree on how, to quote Maximus from season 1. Cooper correctly assumes Senor Bungalow is not a veteran and leaves the room amicably. Now, side note here, in episode 1 I said that Senor Bungalow at the bar looked the same as the one on the TV. I assumed that this was an Adar situation from The Rings of Power, where the original actor left and the new one was supposed to be the same character, even though they look different. Given that this is the second time that Season 2's Senor Bungalow has not been identified as the same one from Season 1, I can only assume that a fan theory is true, that body doubles are being used. People have theorised that this Senor Bungalow is either a double or Anthony House, but stepping outside the show, we find that Amazon's own Explore Fallout page has this actor listed as playing Robert House, meaning that the Season 1 actor has to be a public-facing body double, which is why nobody seems to recognise Senor Bungalow. Back to the current day, and we rejoin the Brotherhood. Quintus is having a meeting with Lady from the previous episode, saying she is out of the Civil War plot. She is not interested in fighting a rebellion. Quintus goes into the history of the Brotherhood and how it was Captain Maxon who rebelled against his government and formed the very first Brotherhood because he chose God over his leaders. Lady retorts with not caring about God, and that the cold fusion should go to the Commonwealth, and then leaves. Maximus steps forward and offers to just kill Paladin Harkness, says, after all, is that not what their chapter does? Quintus, however, does not care and shouts that he is not interested in the thoughts of a sword, showing that his true view of Maximus is just a tool to get done what he wants to happen. Leaving the room, who should Maximus bump into outside but Paladin Harkness? Maximus is somewhat blunt with him, but Harkness points out that this chapter has an awful lot of clerics, far more than the Commonwealth, and back home they are not in charge, which is a very interesting thing to say, as in Season 1, Quintus said that the instructions to find the Cold Fusion Relic had come down from the highest clerics of the Commonwealth, indicating that they were indeed in charge. Anyway, Harkness says that every chapter is different, but this one just sucks. Maximus states that he should not be talking to Harkness at all due to the chain of command, which Harkness seems to appreciate. Still, his tone shifts to one more serious, stating that Quintus is making a mistake, and the Brotherhood is supposed to be a bastion against chaos. All he wants is for Maximus to talk with him, and it is the soldiers who should be in charge, and together they can stop the chaos from ever starting. And with that scene done, we jump back to the Legion camp, with Ghoul Howard standing on a hill in plain view of everyone, and nobody doing anything about it. How did he know where to go? Well, he knew what the Legion was from the slave outfit, but beyond that it is a very, very large area to scour in the hope of finding one camp. Somehow, however, it seems that Ghoul Howard has his FOV set to 20, because while standing on a hill with a plain view of the Legion camp, he failed to spot the Legion camp right next to it. Based on the scene as presented, I would guess there is about 15 metres or so between Lucy, who he was looking at, and the huge earthworks separating the two camps. Now, a quick sidebar about world building here. Ghoul Howard is on a hill, as previously mentioned, that is very close to Legion camps. In order to get to that spot, he would have had to climb said hill, which would have given him plain view of both camps. Yes, he is using a spyglass, but he would not have been holding that up to his eye for the whole time he was walking up that hill, meaning that the reveal of both camps was supposed to be for the audience. Only problem is that the audience already know there is another camp, as Legate Culkin mentioned it earlier in this very episode. So, either Ghoul Howard used his teleportation powers again and just materialised on that hill facing in the direction of Camp 1, and that is why he did not see Camp 2, or he is selectively blind. Anyway, back to the show, and we get to see Caesar 2 sitting in his chair before going back to Caesar 1, before Ghoul Howard realises there is a civil war within the Legion. So he fucks off to Camp Golf. We get to see him take a puff of his anti-feral drug before saying that he does not like Lucy, but he will need her later, before moving inside with seemingly nobody around. Tents are empty, rooms deserted. Only what would spring to life but a Robco Securitron Model 2060B, and turn out to be none other than Victor. The two get into a conversation, with Ghoul Howard saying he came here to get some help from the NCR, but Victor says he's not seen any for ages. Ghoul Howard asks where Senor Bungalow is, which Victor says he's gone, saying he had all the money in the world, but only wanted to live forever. He also says that in order for Senor Bungalow's plans to work, he needed cold fusion, but that Ghoul Howard had something to do with him not getting it. Cooper turns to leave, with Victor bemoaning that nobody's there to keep him company except the rangers in the hills. This gives Ghoul Howard his next destination. But we don't go there yet. Instead we go back to the Brotherhood, with Maximus and Harkness heading into a vertibird. Maximus, being by the book, first says they need a pilot, and that he should get his armour. Harkness scoffs, indicating that he's going to fly, and that he has spare armour. Maximus seems genuinely surprised that there is a concept of spares for power armour, and follows along. In the vertibird, we get Maximus admiring the technology of the armour, while Harkness is trying to be chummy, saying he does not know about that, just how to fight in it. He goes to give Maximus control of the vertibird, but stops, clearly playing with the man, and honestly, thank God it did not devolve into a joke scene of Maximus trying to fly, probably badly, with a one-liner or quip at the end. The pair are clearly forming a bond, as Harkness tells Maximus that if he gets the relic and goes home, there will be no war. And, more importantly, it will save the Commonwealth. And if the Commonwealth falls, then so does civilization. Very curious indeed, as this conversation suggests that the Commonwealth is the only civilized place left in America. Given he had to fly all the way from there to Nevada, he would have had ample opportunity to see everyone trying to rebuild, but I guess the Commonwealth is it. NCR is gone, Legion is fighting itself, and there's just nobody else left in the rest of America. The pair have their conversation interrupted by an alert, which Harkness says is a power indicator. Unauthorized automated activity. Maximus asks what he wants with a pair of robots, with Harkness stating that the Brotherhood keeps the wastelands safe, clearly aligning with Maximus's ideals that he showed in Season 1 by trying to protect people with Titus's armour. With that, the pair descend. Jumping back to Ghoul Howard now, and we see he's near Prim. From the angle, it appears to be behind the Bison Steve and to the northeast. As he walks along, we see a ranger standing upright and in plain view of the rocks behind him, which must have been in his field of view at one point. Given he says, "Oh, I know," to Dog, I read this scene as he's fully aware that he's being watched, and the NCR ranger is just generally incompetent. Said ranger fires, then introduces herself as Captain Rodriguez of the NCR. Splash screen, the NCR. Ghoul Howard goes for a quippy one-liner and gets a rifle butt to the face for his trouble. The second ranger keeps Ghoul Howard pinned while Rodriguez runs over and tells Ranger 2 to not hurt Ghoul Howard. A bit late for that, but what are you going to do? Ranger 2 asks why not, and Rodriguez says that he and the NCR go way back, which is true if you step outside the show and take into account game lore. According to the Great Khans, Ghoul Howard was tormenting them while they were the new Khans and squatting in Vault 15 right next to Shady Sands. The real location of it, I should point out, not the fake show location of it. So it was operating in the New California Republic territory, probably right back to its founding. Scene change, and we get Ranger 2, now Old Man Ranger with his pet squirrel. Quip time! Ghoul Howard suggests the NCR drops new from their name as they are looking quite dusty, before asking where everyone is. Rodriguez says it's just them and they have been cut off for more than a decade. She says they had a battalion out east when Shady Sands fell, which Ghoul Howard corrects her, saying it was over 20 years ago. That's right, the fall of Shady Sands happened in or before 2276, despite what everything else in this show has said thus far. Rodriguez asks Ghoul Howard to help them contact the battalion, to which he chuckles. She says they were winning the war, which, quite frankly, is a laughable position to hold when you consist of 2 people in the hills around Prim, and by her own admission, are boxed in by the Legion, implying that the Legion are all around them. I guess they're all hiding in the scrubland somewhere. Anyway, Ghoul Howard coughs because he needs another dose of his anti-feral drug, which means it has taken him a day to walk from Camp Golf to Prim, despite the lack of scene transitions telling us so, that is. Rodriguez fishes out a box of serums saying that Ghoul Howard used to believe in the things they fight for, which he scoffs at, takes the serums and leaves. We get one parting line, however. If something is dead, it is because it deserved to die. Implication, the NCR did not deserve to keep on going. Transition to a door being bust down. It's Harkness and Maximus at the robot signal. Everything seems quiet until another Securitron 2060B comes round the corner and starts unloading on. Harkness, apparently having the time of his life, charges at the thing with a super sledge and, while being a box on a single wheel, managed to somehow evade most of his strikes. He does manage to knock off an arm before inviting Maximus to join in, who charges in himself, punches the screen, and pulls out a remarkably intact fusion core. How lucky he did not accidentally punch that too and cause a mini nuclear explosion, eh? The pair celebrate, swap weapons, and we jump back to Lucy. Now, while it still appears to be day, we know that at least one day has progressed since she was put up on the cross, and she is looking worse for wear. Not being a biologist, I cannot say if the hallucinations and loss of consciousness is something that happens after a day of no food and water in the harsh desert sun, but we will go with it for now. Ghoul Howard strides into the Legion camp and strikes a deal. He gets Lucy, and they get the location of the last two NCR soldiers in the Mojave. Cut to pre-war, and we get a scene that's supposed to be a reflection of the previous. Charlie Whiteknife is up on stage talking about an action in the war where he rescued a, by the sounds of it, severely wounded Cooper Howard, with Cooper's response to rescue not asking if they got the enemy, but rather if everyone else was okay. I understand in this season they are going for the man that was compared to the man he has become, and by and large these two scenes work well together in my opinion. Charlie's speech overlaps with the scene of Lucy being cut down, and you're supposed to take away from this that Ghoul Howard thinks that what he has done in selling out the NCR is for the right reasons, to find his family and presumably kill Hank. The man he was cared about preserving life, and the man he is cares about taking it. Caesar 1 proclaims they are going to destroy the NCR as Ghoul Howard takes Lucy away, and we get a glance at 5 barrels of explosives, all neatly stacked. I presume here that Caesar 1 is only going to send a few people to deal with the NCR, because if anyone leaves from the camp and everybody goes with them, then Caesar 2 can just go and get original Caesar's body and take over both camps. Anyway, Charlie gets a commemorative lighter and heads to Cooper and hands it over to him. And the linked scene ends with Ghoul Howard looking down at that same lighter. Lucy asks what he did, with Ghoul Howard saying that he is unsure if it was good or stupid. With that part, I believe, as a callback to the previous episode where he called her stupid for trying not to take lives. Boom! The explosives in Caesar's 1 camps go up. How? Why? Nobody knows. I think we are supposed to assume that Ghoul Howard ignited a wick or something, but given how far away they are when it goes off, someone would have noticed not only him start the fire, but also watch it burn and try to put it out. Nope. This is a Deus Ex Machina moment. The hand of the writer reached down out of the heavens and said, "Stuff blows up now, lol." And lo, it did happen. Caesar 2's camp starts an assault on Caesar 1's camp as Lucy and Ghoul Howard walk away, and the scene ends. For the final scene in this episode, we go back to Maximus and Harkness as they enter a very familiar looking bottling plant, with the kids there not hiding quite well enough and being spotted. Harkness calls the ghoul child a baby abomination and invites all the other kids to come out, trying to sound like he's no threat to them. He gets the kids to separate into human and mutant, with Maximus asking him to stop as they are just children. Suddenly teleporting under the conveyor belt that was plain in view of everybody and not reacting to anything that was just happening is Thaddeus. He tries to negotiate with Harkness while Maximus looks a little confused to see Thaddeus again, but Harkness will not budge. These are not kids, these are abominations. He aims his assault rifle, slowly squeezing the trigger when... wham! Super sledge to the head. Harkness is dead! Maximus is a hero! He saved all the kids! And maybe just started the Brotherhood Civil War. Thus ends episode 3. So, what did I think of this episode? Decent acting from the cast, for the most part. Lucy, unfortunately, seems to have lost all awareness of the situation she is in, which is mind-boggling to me, given the events she has gone through to get here. Standing in a camp in front of a man who executed the woman she saved for no apparent reason, and she's just talking down to them. She is very lucky indeed that she only got crucifixion as a punishment. The Brotherhood of Arsehole scenes are a step up from the previous episode, with no jarhead idiots to lower the bar, and it is an interesting progression of Maximus's character. He sees that the people who he thought were the great protectors of mankind are just angry fundamentalists, so he goes with a guy who seems much more reasonable, only to find out he is just as bad by being a human supremacist. So now he is in a tough spot, wrestling with his own morals over those of the two groups that he is just pissed off. Pre-war scenes are not bad, and the way they're presented are a decent view of who Cooper was and what he valued, compared to how the Wasteland has changed him. However, we did already know that from Season 1, where he had an issue shooting a bad guy on film, compared to stating that he hunts people for fun after getting dug up. So I don't really know if this seems needed. Thaddeus' scenes, well, he's just kind of a smiling arsehole now. He stands up for the kids in the end, but he might just simply have done that to protect his workforce who, need I remind you, get 2 hours of rest a day so that he can get rich. The rest is just okay for me. There's not really enough meat to get into, and it's just like, hey, here's the Legion, here's the NCR, here's Victor, and then it's over. Overall, I would give this one a 5. It's decent, but so little substance for me that happened that the episode just kind of zoomed by. One day after watching it, and I am honestly struggling to properly recall some of the scenes that I have watched. One thing of note, however, is that the show is inconsistent with itself as Season 1, and arguably the previous episode put the fall and destruction of Shady Sands in 2277, but Cool Howard puts it as 2276 as before. So with that done, let's get on to everything it got wrong. The Legion would not be brutalising and executing their own slaves, as they are just the workforce. Yes, they do not have the same rights as the military, but they would not just be executing them for getting lost. Legate Lanius never revealed his face to anyone and struck blind his slaves so they would not see it. According to the end slides of New Vegas, if there is a Legion victory but Caesar dies, and the showrunner has stated that all sides think they won, then Legate Lanius is crowned the new Caesar. The horns on Lanius' helmet face forward, not up. Roger Maxson was sent to the Mariposa military base but was not in charge. He only started executing scientists when his soldiers uncovered what was going on, experiments on prisoners of war, and there is no record of him executing anyone else, as his CO took his own life after a mental breakdown. He then made the statement of succession, but there was no response, due to the nuclear war breaking out 3 days later. As far as we know, Victor was designed to ensure the platinum chip reached Mr. House, and once done, remained at the Lucky 38. There is no reason for him to be at Camp Golf. If Mr. House dies, so does Victor. Mr. House cannot be gone, and Victor still around. Kaiser is, as far as we know, how it is pronounced in Latin. Lucy, who knows Latin, is wrong According to Mr. House, when Caesar dies, his legion would split. However, it is extremely unlikely they would build a dirt hill between two sides, leave their leader's corpse on it, without reading the note in his pocket, as someone would have to have moved him there, and remain at war for over 10 years. Mr. House did not need cold fusion to enact his defense plan of New Vegas. He needed the platinum chip. Shady Sands was not destroyed in 2276, as it is still the capital of the NCR in 2281. While there is no law I'm aware of to say if the Commonwealth Brotherhood hates ghouls and kills them on sight, Captain Kells does indicate that they are barely tolerated. Ghoul Howard was not forced to disarm before entering the Legion camp. While that was a rule from Caesar, it is exceedingly unlikely it would be rescinded whilst being in an active war. The Great Khans would not be a major enemy of the Legion. They either fought against the Legion with the NCR and were then pushed out, or left of their own accord, or just wiped out by the Legion. As far as we know, Robco did not own any nuclear missile silos. Well, with that done, it'll be on to episode 4. I hope you can join me again, and until then, have a good day.